continue running. He just stopped asking me. My God, look at me, silly. Does anyone know I'm here?
You've been in the news almost every day.
What are they doing?
Well, the government's policy is not to negotiate or make concessions to eco-warriors.
Well, what are they doing? My mistake, I just asked the question. Don't they know what I go through every day?
Why don't you tell us? How do you start your day off?
Well, Cathy gets me up for my first bathroom privilege, exercise. Then they have breakfast, then back up to my room. After that, Martin comes to get me for supper, and then they give me soda.
Do you know about Martin?
Know what?
That he made a suicide vow today.
Suicide? Martin? Don't tell me that. What happened?
Why are you so upset about the death of one of your captors?
He was a bright old man, a brilliant gentleman. He told me a joke this morning. Nobody told me anything. What happened? What happened?
He drove up to an EPA building early this morning and killed Pete.
Oh my God. Martin, my God.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. It just doesn't seem possible. He was always apologizing to me for this whole thing. Just his hand on my shoulder or kind words somehow got me through the day. He used to tell me a joke every day and tell me not to laugh or else I'd get him in trouble. So I pretended to cough.
What was the joke you told you this morning?
Is it okay?
Of course.
How many terrorists does it take to screw in a light bulb? 17. One to actually do it, 16 others to take responsibility.
In what capacity did you serve in the EPA?
Would you please allow me to come back right over?
In what capacity did you serve in the EPA at Crystal River?
Liaison.
Liaison. What does that mean?
I handled federal and state EPA works.
What is this, a family reunion?
Why were you sent to the Crystal River Waterworks?
Well, raw water was impacted upon by upstream industrial waste.
What kind of wastes?
I don't recall.
TCE?
Yes.
And how is TCE formed?
TCE is a combination of common chemicals that forms a highly tight chemical bond that can't be broken down by common filtration.
So a carcinogen.
In lab rats, but rats don't necessarily live as humans.
What was done about the TCE at Crystal River?
The waterworks applied for a variance.
Variance. Another nice word. What does it mean?
An exemption from federal standards.
And was an exemption granted?
Yes.
Now, who signed that variance?
Wait a second. My signature is located higher up. I cannot stand alone.
On what basis did you sign that variance?
Our biologists determined that Crystal River was an acceptable health risk.
Define acceptable health risk.
Acceptable health risk means that a person can consume 2 liters of water every day for a lifetime without gross adverse effects.
So that if the benefit exceeds the risk, it's an acceptable health risk.
Yes.
And what is the basis of an acceptable health risk?
Tests conducted by the National Academy of Sciences.
A government-created and sponsored institution.
The Academy's formula for safe water includes 6 bacteria, pesticides, radioactivity, turbidity, and a built-in allowance for the excretion of the harmful additives that could exceed health margin. That, in my opinion, is sound scientific judgment.
Do you have an education in the sciences? No. In what do you hold a degree?
CPA.
Accounting.
I'm in management, not research.
But you make scientific judgments. And when you can't clean up the water, you clean up the language instead.
I think you're just calling a highly problematic issue.
Tell me, do you drink tap water?
Yes.
So then why is bottled water delivered to your home?
My wife prefers it.
But isn't your safe health risk water good enough? Or do you know something that the rest of us don't? If we all drink bottled water, will we be absolutely safe?
No.
What about TCE toxic fumes when we shower, do dishes, and wash laundry. How much more do we absorb then? More. How much more?
Considerably more.
What about 6 times more?
4 or 5 times more at best.
In my EPA projections, how many people per year fall victim to your safe, acceptable health risk water?
1 in 100,000 will fall victim to CE cancers.
And in a nation of 300 million, what's that come to?
3,500.
3,000 people every year fall victim to your safe, acceptable health risk water. It's as if we had a 9/11 every single year and nobody noticed. Just 3,500 anonymous human beings wasting away. What's the word that they use to describe premeditated random acts of violence against innocent people? What's the word, Miss Lyons? Earth now took its victims with a car bomb blast, and you take yours with a signature on a variance that causes a protoplasmic explosion that you deny. We don't call it terrorism. We call it tumor. We call it cancer. Unknown causes. Premeditated random acts of violence against innocent people.
The drug's making me sick to my stomach.
What drug?
Tell her! Tell her!
I was given an injection before the interview. At first I was hopeful, but now...
You were told that you would be interviewed.
Yes.
When?
A few hours ago.
Let's see.
They even pressed my suited shirt.
Mr. Darling, when they told you that you'd be interviewed, when they pressed your suit and shirt, and when they prepared you for the interview, what did they inject you?
Tell her!
And truth drugs. Scalpine?
Scopolamine. Sure, say the bottom. It's placebo.
Bull!
Mr. Darling was injected with water. Distilled water. What he has coursing through his veins is his own susceptibility. Oh, and don't worry, Mr. Darling. It isn't Crystal River water. Do you remember those forgettable people in that sleepy little town?
Yes.
And do you remember what they contracted from your safe health water?
There were some outbreaks of hepatitis and gastroenteritis.
And salmonella.
Yes.
And how was the town provided for?
A warning was issued.
Not to drink the safe, acceptable health risk water.
Yes.
So what did the EPA do to provide for the town?
The National Guard brought in water trucks.
And what happened?
There were some fatalities. Some elderly people, I don't recall the numbers at the moment, developed pneumonia and succumbed to complications.
Define complications.
I'm not a doctor.
What was the town's response?
There were troubles.
Define troubles.
A riot. But a study showed that there were outside agitators, not townspeople.
Studied by who?
The FBI.
The FBI.
And it was blown all out of proportion.
By whom?
Who else? The media.
In what way?
They showed some crazy girl set herself on fire.
FBI study said she was crazy.
Yes, she had a history of mental illness and drug abuse.
It's Lyons. You filmed that incident. Describe it.
2 protesters, a young woman and a bearded young man. They told me that they intended to immolate themselves in protest. Asked me if I'd like a good image for the camera. They doused themselves in gasoline. The girl struck a match and became a ball of fire. She reached out to him to give him her fire, but at the last minute he changed his mind. He screamed for somebody to get water, for somebody to put out the fire.
And what was your responsibility for that immolation?
None.
So you see no correlation between your actions and the riots and the immolation?
I was exonerated of all charges by a departmental study.
Why didn't you close the facility down?
Because it's too easy to padlock the gates and walk away. I get paid to find solutions.
Solution? What was your solution? Lower the water standard? A standard on which on a scale of 1 to 10 is 1. And you recommended to go below the lowest. -1. This is what I'm talking about.
Then what the hell are people supposed to drink? The world's in a water famine. I don't work with simplistic theories. It's my job to solve it. I work with the nuts and bolts of the problem day in and day out.
Darling.
And the problem's overwhelming. One man can't start it. One man can't stop it.
save you.
Save me from what? Oh, yes, of course. Okay, got what you need? Won't I make a fine feather in your cap?
Take down. This is the first of systematic executions of polluters and collaborators worldwide. Now is the time for the real and committed to rise up and sweep out the terroricides.
Jesus bleeding
Christ! Use the weapons at hand, the phone for bomb threats, mail bombs, pipe bombs, or even just a pack of matches. Turn on the terroricides. Strike a blow to the planet. Turn on the camera.
You won. You made all your points and brilliantly.
Move her and turn on the camera.
We had a deal. The camera's not going to be used, not for anything.
Your organization aired CIA footage of a hostage being hanged.
Because if we didn't, the competition would have.
You did it for ratings. And the higher the ratings, the more you can charge your advertisers. You're all on sale for a train wreck.